Welcome to the KT Literary Podcast. I'm your host, Renee Nyan. This is the podcast where we talk about books, creativity, and the business of publishing through the agenting perspective. Listen, I'm not going to tell you anything you don't know, but 2025 has been rough, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Today's conversation isn't all chuckles either. Today, we are talking about generative AI and the publishing industry. Are we super upbeat about all this? No! Frankly, that's hard for us. But these are conversations everyone in the industry is having, and we thought you might appreciate a chance to listen in on one. Here's a little disclaimer. We are not AI experts. We aren't experts in the way that it works, or even in the ways that it can work for us. We are approaching this conversation from a contractual perspective, and that I would like to think we are experts in. We discuss how publishing is using it, how it's affecting our clients, and ways that we can keep their intellectual property safe. Protecting our clients is something we take very seriously, even in moments of change within the industry, even when things aren't settled and will absolutely change again. We will always try to do the best thing for our clients. Joining me today for this conversation is our president, Kate Testerman, our illustration coordinator and senior agent, Adria Getz, and our phenomenal, brilliant contracts manager and senior agent, Kelly Van Sant. Enjoy. Kate Testerman, Adria Getz, Kelly Van Sant. Welcome to the KT Literary Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for hosting us.
Hi, so great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I would say thrilled, but I don't know that actually represents how I feel. I am excited and anticipating a fantastic discussion about AI today and the world of AI in publishing. I feel like there's been a lot of hand-wringing done by myself, I will fully admit. A lot of conjecture, a lot of catastrophizing. So we are here to try to strip away some of that and just talk about what AI is, what we're faced with right now with AI in publishing, and how we're protecting our clients and kind of what we are doing right now as AI stands at the beginning of 2025, because I anticipate that this is going to evolve and change very quickly. So we can only speak to, obviously, our present moment. So, Kelly, I'm going to put you on the spot first. I'm so sorry. What are some of the most immediate challenges in publishing now that AI is well and truly here?
Yeah, so I think for the purposes of this conversation, it's good to start by sort of defining what we're talking about when we're talking about AI or artificial intelligence. And so, largely speaking, for the purposes of this conversation and as it relates to publishing, we're going to be talking about something that's sort of known as generative AI, or AI that is now able to create bodies of work or artwork or imitate human voices or, any of that sort of thing where the artificial intelligence itself is sort of generating or creating work. Because truthfully, we have all been using AI in our personal lives and in publishing, certainly, for years. We just haven't called it that or thought of it that way. So, an example of an AI tool is like spell check in Microsoft Word. And that is a tool that we all use and find incredibly helpful. And no one really thinks twice about it. There's nothing that really concerns us about that specifically. And so the AI has been with us. It has been embedded in this industry in various different ways. And now the technologies have evolved to have new capabilities. And that is sort of where our current conversations are happening about what does that evolution and those new capabilities mean for writers, for artists, for creatives, for publishers, for the future of our industry and how it works. So, to answer your question of what's happening right now with AI in publishing, I think to be succinct, what's happening is that the publishing industry is trying to reckon with how that generative AI can be used, if it should be used, what the implications are for any use of generative AI legally, creatively. There's a lot of concerns about copyright protection. There's a lot of concerns about job protection. The conversation is wide ranging.
I mean, I think that the fact is I'm not a huge fan of AI. I'm going to go right out there and say it. I try not to use it in day-to-day life. That being said, as an amateur photographer, I've been using AI tools in Photoshop and Lightroom to help define edges for years now. Now they can also fill in backgrounds. In terms of publishing, some of the uses that we've seen on the publisher side, like let's start there as opposed to authors using generative AI or artists. The publishers are using AI. One example is audio arcs, where a publisher creates a advanced reading copy of a book for initial promotion and sending it out to bookstores, influencers, etc. A lot of those people have gotten so used to listening to books on audio that they don't want to sit down and read it and prefer to consume books via audio. And so some publishers are using AI or licensed voices in order to create audio editions that are not for sale. Let's be very clear here. Other publishers, I think, have spoken about using AI to help create internal documents, whether that's title information sheets of some kind. And that is not ever meant to be public facing. And I think that's where I don't love it, but I can understand and appreciate it to a level where it keeps editors and the people that we want to deal with our books more focused on the actual work of editing and helping us create the best books possible.
Any thoughts, Adria?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are always ethical concerns when we're talking about AI, and how it can replace work done by creatives, like creative jobs. And like I was talking to a client of mine the other day who does translation work, and one of her publishers, won't say who, but they've started using AI for translation work. And she was like, translation is not just this like it's very nuanced work. It requires an understanding of tone and context, and it's technical work, but it's also artistic work. And so I just think it's a shame to use AI for a purpose like that. And I also think, by the way, that's going to create a lot of like gobbledygook. That's going to create a lot of like books that don't make sense. I also feel the same way about like using AI for cover design. Like that's taking away illustration work for illustrators. That's like a way for them to make an income and build their brand, build their reach as a creator. But if a publisher wants to use AI for tedious, administrative things like mining a manuscript for SEO terms, like by all means, I don't think anyone's like opposed to that. But yeah, it definitely raises a lot of existential questions, this topic.
Yeah.
And I think,
Go, Kelly.
I was just going to say, I think that our position as an agency, certainly, and I mean, I agree with Kate and what Adria said about personally, I have a lot of ethical concerns about AI. I don't use it in my personal life. And as an agency, certainly, I think that's also our stance, that our job is to advocate for our clients, and that, we are determined to do everything that we can to be informed about this topic and how it intersects with our clients' work, and what we can do to best advocate for them and protect their rights.
Yeah, I found it so interesting, Kate. I didn't realize that publishers were using generative AI to basically make ARCs more accessible. And so there are some places where it can be really great. And yeah, and when I was an editorial assistant, I remember just the mountains and mountains of TI sheets, all of the catalog copy and the stuff that the editors did that took time away from editing books, and that they spent most of their actual work hours doing these menial tasks, not menial, but doing these other tasks,
Administrative tasks.
yes, administrative tasks
Editorial.
that took away and then they would bring the manuscripts home and edit at home in the evening. And so I find that really, really fascinating as a tool. Like, it really can be a tool for good, if it is used responsibly, which I think is really the thing, because it's not going away, it's not changing.
No, I mean, it's like the common meme or the common joke that I've seen on the internet is like, no, like I wanted the robots to clean my house and do the boring stuff so that I could do the creative stuff I enjoy. Like, yes. I don't want an AI written book. I want to sit and read a book while a robot cleans my house, or, goes through my refrigerator and notices what we're low on and makes a grocery list. Like, that's a use of AI that I could get behind if it weren't also for the environmental concerns of using AI, which is a whole other conversation.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too, because I've heard that joke too about like, I want AI to take care of the admin of my life so that I as a human can be creative, and which I'm on board for. But I think the interesting thing about where that intersects with publishing is, like, for example, I've seen, publishers talking about potential use for AI internally to streamline their processes. And something that comes up a lot is copy editing. And that we could have AI do copy editing instead of human copy editors. And when you think about it, copy editing is sort of like really advanced spell check and much more nuanced. And so if we're fine with spell check, does it follow that then copy editing would be fine? And I don't know, I mean, you are then faced with, okay, everybody who's doing copy editing now will be out of a job, and I don't want that. But I also wonder how flexible AI can be in that situation. Like, if an author sets something for voice, meaning they reject a copy editor's grammatical suggestion because they like the way it flows better, or it's more true to a character to speak in this way, or whatever, is AI going to be able to be nimble enough to like take those author stats or suggestions or whatever else? I don't know. I don't know what the capabilities of it are. So I don't think it's that simple in terms of like, yes, we want it for admin, but like, do we?
I know. I am concerned that it's going to lead to job loss.
Yeah.
It is a real concern.
And it changes the job, because even if in Kelly's suggestion or possibility of AI doing copy editing, you still need a human to check it.
Mm-hmm.
And so now the people that were trained as copy editors are being asked to check the work of the robot overlords that are replacing them. I don't know that that's beneficial.
Yeah, and I would just like to stick up for copy editors because they are some of the most like incredibly detailed and nuanced individuals, and
Yeah.
the way that they read is at such a different level than any normal person, I would say. Like, they're exceptional. And
Yeah.
I feel like there is a bit of human touch that happens that magic would be absolutely lost if it was just a computer doing it.
Agreed.
So, Kelly, specifically, since you are our contracts manager, of course, Adrian, Kate, you are welcome to chime in as well. But what are you seeing change in the publishing contracts that are coming across your desk? How is the interaction between, like the legal interaction between the work and the author and the publishing house? How is that changing?
Yeah, it's definitely changing, and right now I would say it's very much still in the process of, constant change and flux. We have not yet reached sort of an industry standard where all publishers are sort of including the same language. Sometimes I will get contracts with publishers who have proactively included AI language in their contract. So the contract, the publisher has worked with their legal team to come up with language that addresses AI as a huge umbrella topic. They've proactively sort of done that, and that language is in there. And then we can sort of try to negotiate it or advocate for changes or tweaks depending on how we feel about that language. Other publishers are not sending us contracts with AI language included. And so we're sort of requesting it, advocating it with specifics that are important to us. So, general things that we're trying to push for, and most agents I know are trying to push for, are things like the publisher does not have the right to feed the manuscript into any generative AI tools or use generative AI in any way in relation to the manuscript. We are trying to make sure that any cover images are not AI sourced. We are trying to make sure that audiobook narrators are, read by actual humans and not AI generated voices. So there's lots of things that we're sort of advocating for when a contract comes to us with no AI language. And some publishers are receptive to that conversation, and we're adding things in, and it's constantly evolving. Some publishers have approached the conversation as sort of like a wait and see, where they're saying, we don't really know what AI means or what it could do or how it will play out in the future. And so we don't feel it's appropriate to address it in our contracts at this time. So it's really all over the place. But the consistent thing from our perspective is that we are advocating for as many protections as we can get in the contracts that we're negotiating.
Do you have any sense of where it will land? Like, are we just too fresh into this that we have no idea? Or do you think we can actually find like a happy medium of language that protects the authors and also allows publishers to do what they feel like they need to do?
I think that's too much prognosticating to deal with. There was a recent situation where one of the big five publishers made a deal with a large language model, right? I think that's what they're called. A company that wanted to use some of their backlist titles to train AI. And said publisher reached out to the authors of the books that they were interested in using and offered a sort of flat fee. Here's how much we can pay you for these rights for a preliminary sort of trial period of a couple of years. There was a lot of conversation at the time via the Authors Guild and the American Association of Literary Agents, of which many of us are members, that the rights to even consider uploading an author's work like this does not belong with the publisher, that it is the author's right to do so in the first place. And still, the other concern is if once you've trained it, once you've taught the machine that this is how this type of books are made, you can never unteach it that, even if this is a limited license. So even those initial steps that people are kind of attempting to make, or publishers are trying to do, or AI companies are attempting to do, even if an author is interested, we are nowhere near like a solution that is going to work for everybody, or honestly, in many cases, anybody.
I'm curious to see if there's going to be a divide between fiction and nonfiction. Because I think, wasn't that deal you mentioned, wasn't that
It was almost
specifically
all
for
nonfiction, yeah.
titles? Yeah, I wonder if we're going to see a divide there with kind of standards.
So I think one of the immediate ways that generative AI is sort of impacting publishing revolves around copyright. So in the United States, AI generated works cannot be copyrighted. A work has to have an overwhelming percentage of it has to be created by a human in order to be copyrightable. And so already, like, you can go on Amazon and find a ton of like clearly AI generated works, or picture books that were human authored with AI illustrations, or we're already seeing this. It has empowered people sort of to feel like they can be quote unquote published without having to do the work of like honing a craft. Which is like, I have really strong feelings about that, and I don't know if we want to take this conversation in that direction necessarily, but those works, or at least portions of those works depending, are not copyrightable. And copyright is an incredibly important part of the publishing industry, because it's what makes publishers able to control and monetize works. Whoever's in control of the copyright has the right to grant or retain various rights connected to the work and license them or monetize them. You can defend your copyright if you have been plagiarized. It's a really important backbone to the industry, and if we start publishing works that cannot be copyrighted or can't be copyrighted in full, that opens up a lot of like a huge can of worms that I don't think we're necessarily equipped to deal with right now.
We being just the publishing industry generally?
Yeah, I think all of us. I mean, I think, I am not a lawyer. I'm a contracts director, but I do not have a law degree. And a lot of what's happening right now is that the technology, as all technology does, it goes much faster than law creation in our country. And so we're sort of at this place where we have this technology that has all these capabilities, and because it exists, people are using it. And we don't have a way legally to deal with those things yet. So we're trying to sort of play catch up, and I'm sure there will be, lawsuits or, legal questions, and we'll be doing a lot of scrambling after the fact to sort of deal with the things that are happening now.
But as Kate said, there really is no way to untrain a trained system.
Yeah, you can't like put it back in the box. You can't unswirl it. I think there's a great Tom Stoppard play called Arcadia where he talks about when you swirl jam into the oatmeal, you can't unswirl it. And that's really true. It's sort of here and happening, and we're going to have to figure out how to move forward. And I think some people are really excited about the possibilities that are open to them as a result of this technology and the things that it could mean. And they are viewing it in a very positive, hopeful, empowering sort of way. And I think my main concern, like in my role as the contracts director here, is protecting the integrity of the work that our clients have created and protecting their rights and their intellectual property and their copyright and preserving their job opportunities. And, I think that when I read about or hear about sort of the future forecasting or possibilities and excitement of that technology, I'm sort of looking at the other side of it of like, these are the people who are here now who've been doing this work, and how is it impacting them? And you could argue it's too soon to tell, but from where I'm standing, I feel like the impacts are negative.
Adria, you are our illustration coordinator. I would love to hear if you have any specific view on this as someone who deals with artists specifically and illustrators.
Yeah, I mean, I again just don't want any human work to be replaced by robots, particularly when it comes to picture book illustrations, when it comes to like spot illustrations that you see in novels, cover designs, because there are so many talented, amazing illustrators at our agency, but also at other agencies, and so we just want to continue to see art that's done by humans, and I think people want art by humans too. I don't think this is like me being like having a bleeding heart for artists. I think it's genuinely people want art by humans. So, yeah, that's my main concern, is just not having creative work done by AI instead.
I will post this to the group. I feel like we covered some of it, but very directly, is there any way that AI is a good thing for, say, our clients? Is there a silver lining here?
So, like, again, I think that goes back to sort of what we talked about at the top of the conversation. Like, what are we talking about when we say AI? So, like, there are tons of AI tools that make writing and creating more accessible. Like, if you use a talk to type tool, you're still writing your novel. Like, that's still a human generated work, but you're using a AI tool in order to help facilitate, that. So like, do I think there are AI tools that make writers' lives better? Absolutely. Do I think generative AI does that for creatives? Right now, I guess personally, I don't see a compelling argument for that. Personally.
I do think I have spoken to several agents who I use reading, like an audio program that they can upload or input, or have the manuscripts that they're reviewing read to them. And for a lot of people, that saves them a tremendous amount of time and allows them, it is an accessibility thing that allows them to do the job that they're already doing more quickly, more easily. Do I want to see authors using generative AI for manuscripts? Absolutely not. Do I expect to represent any illustrators who are really good at like asking for art on generative AI art programs? Heck no. I think it's about like the tools, not I want AI to be useful as a tool, not a creative source.
Because ultimately it isn't a source if it
Right.
needs to be trained by our client's books or our client's artwork. It isn't a source. It's just recreating what it's been fed.
And I know the tech bros will come back and be like, no, but everybody who is a writer uses the books that they've read and that influences them. And artists are using different styles. It's different, dudes. Like, no.
Tech bros, are you lost? This is a literary agency podcast.
I mean, yeah, I don't expect that they're actually.
We don't offer what you're looking for.
Well, and like contractually too, like, sorry, but it's my, it's my beat, is contracts. So it's always going to come back to that for me. Publishing contracts have a clause in their contracts called the warranties and indemnities clause. And the warranties that you make are essentially promises that you make. You assert these things to be true by signing the contract. And if it turns out that any of them are false, you're in breach of contract and there's going to be really negative repercussions for you. One of the first warranties in every single publishing agreement is I warrant that I am the sole creator of this work, and that, there is no, like, generative AI is not meaning you're the creator. Even if you type into it, I want, you to write a story about such and such in the style of this and that with these plot points, like, even if you feed it the, data and it uses that to then make the story isn't human generated. Like, the idea was, and ideas aren't copyrightable. Nobody cares about your ideas. It's how you, people care about how your ideas. I didn't mean that, but it's about how you exercise your ideas, how you execute them, how you manifest those ideas. That makes your work valuable and unique. And so, you can't have an AI generated work and also warrant in a contract that you're the sole creator of it.
Is there anything that we did not cover that you would like to?
I don't think so. I feel like, we're not here to give the super in-depth conversation. We are none of us AI apologists or advocates that are going to talk about all the great things. There's news happening every day about major publishers getting in bed with or using or making use of AI, and that's a bigger conversation. This is just for us to say, as always, we are here to protect our clients, and right now that's protecting them against unauthorized AI training on their work.
I love that. Yeah, it is our job to protect our clients, and we will continue to do that because we love their work. We love their art. We appreciate it. And it's too special to let someone else just take it. Same as piracy. Just can't do it. Well, I appreciate all of you chatting with me about this less than happy subject. But I do think it's a valuable conversation, and I appreciate that you all were willing to go there with me. As we wrap up, as one of the defining characteristics of our agency is boundless optimism, I always like to try to end even these tougher conversations on an up note. So I'm going to ask what's making you happy this week. Let's start with you, Adria.
Okay, I love to cook, and I'm a very like intuitive cooker chef, and so just kind of follow my heart. And I made something the other night that was like so delicious. It's a roasted red pepper sauce, and it was like roasted red peppers that were blitzed with like beef stock, heavy cream, roasted garlic, all of these seasonings. Cooked up some Italian sausage, put it over fettuccine, and it was like just so delicious. And I made a big batch of it, so I've been eating it for lunch. So it's just like the gift that keeps on giving. And this is notable only because I'm very like self-critical of the things that I make, and I'm always like, oh, this, I over season this, or this the pork's a little dry or whatever. But this one I was like, I have no notes for myself. It's just undeniably delicious.
Yay! Oh, that's the best feeling in the world. I love that. How about you, Kelly?
Oh my goodness. Okay. I love video games a lot. And somehow I have never played Stardew Valley until now. And Stardew Valley, for anyone who doesn't know, is just this absolutely charming little game where you play a little farmer who quits your corporate job and moves to Stardew Valley to like farm stuff. And you can chat with villagers and like help them, with things they need. And you can plant crops and, forage for things. And it's just so delightful. So I have been playing that, and I recently got my daughter into it. And so now we play a co-op on a farm together, and it is just my favorite pastime right now.
My kids and I do Stardew Valley together, and we love it. That's so fun. Kate, our fearless leader, what is making you happy this week?
Anticipation of seeing you in person this weekend and giving you a big hug, and seeing other friends and getting to be in the quote room where it happens on Monday, where the American Library Association announces the winners of their Youth Media Awards. And I may be dating myself in terms of finding a specific moment where this is happening. But it's kind of the children's publishing world's Oscars, and the excitement of being in the room and getting to hear that is it's a lot of fun. And I get to see people in person and give hugs and enjoy meals. And as an extrovert, that is something I desperately need right now.
I love that. The room where it happens, there's nothing like it. It's very exciting. And congratulations in advance to all the winners.
Yay.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know it wasn't the easiest topic, but since we deal in intellectual property, a conversation around training generative AI and contracts implications was an important one to have. As the technology changes and the conversation in our industry does too, we may revisit the topic. Fun! The most important takeaway is this. No matter what technology is thrown at us, no matter how things in the industry change, KT Literary is dedicated to tirelessly fighting for our clients. As always, if you enjoyed this podcast, please like us on all the social media platforms so you can see what is going on around the agency. We are KT Literary pretty much everywhere. Until next time, we'll see you on the acknowledgements page.